and welcome to the Uncultured Nerd Show. My name is Maven. I'm an uncultured nerd who also loves to rewind to my childhood through the medium of film. While there are some films I remember from the hundreds of times I watched them, there are others I remember quite clearly from just one watch because of the fear. Yes, fear from certain films have stayed with me throughout the years. The subject of today's episode is one of those feared films which my family owns on VHS, but usually sat unwatched because of how scary I thought it was. And it's time to see if it really was a horrifying tale of horror or if I was just an easily frightened kid.
20th Century Fox presents a high-flying adventure that will send your spirits soaring. Once Upon a Forest.
Yes, I was very scared of this delightful-looking film, Once Upon a Forest, but don't be fooled. Darkness lurks behind the whimsy. My memories of this film are mainly comprised of a scary owl, some giant scary construction equipment, a flying leaf thing, and some very scary humans capturing animals for lab experiments. I don't remember any character names, and the only plot details I can recall is that someone got sick from some human thing and they need to go on a quest to save her. That's all I got. Can you tell I'm stalling? I don't want to watch this again. I'm still terrified. But according to my birth certificate, I'm also legally an adult, and adults must learn to face their fears. Please hold my hand as we dive into this episode's Unhinged Recap. This group of young animals, Abigail, Edgar, Russell, and Michelle, say goodbye to their parents and go to school, meeting up with their teacher, Cornelius. He shows them an invention that he's been working on for months, which they promptly destroy. Luckily, he takes it well, and they go off for a boat ride. After they also manage to sink the boat, the kids find a new hard surface they've never seen before, and Russell is nearly run over by a speeding truck. The animals leave, but a second truck comes along, crashes, and a deadly gas is released into the forest. When the children get back to their homes, everyone is gone except for Michelle's parents, who didn't make it out in time. Unfortunately, Michelle inhaled some of the gas and now is very sick, but Cornelius doesn't have the medicine to save her, so it's off on an adventure. The kids leave the next morning and encounter several obstacles, including a hungry owl, construction equipment, and unfriendly locals. Luckily, they find the plants Cornelius needs and use the plans for his invention to get them. Then they fly home and make it in time for Michelle to get the medicine, but oh no, more humans have arrived and Edgar is caught in trap. However, the humans let him go and announces the area to be clean. Michelle wakes up the next day and all the parents return from wherever they went. Cornelius officially adopts Michelle and they prepare to rebuild the forest to its former glory. Okay, why did I remember there was animal testing in this? I'm very confused at how my brain remembered that, cause somehow all the scary parts were accurate except with the animal testing. Maybe I conflated this and Secret and Nim. I don't know, but overall, a lot less scary than I remember. Probably cause it's meant for children and I am legally an adult who also watched Silence of the Lambs last night. But even without that one scary thing I apparently imagined into the film, some other unsettling memories were definitely awakened. That owl is still one freaky-ass MFer. Those evil eyes. That's actually, I think, the film's biggest strength, is making you feel the fear of these kids. The fact that they're kids actually voiced by kids helps a lot, but the music as well, with the very good fear animation, really gets your heart pounding. What does take away from that fear is the worst part of the film, and that is the kids themselves. These guys are so annoying. And I know kids are annoying, but you couldn't tone it down just a little? From the first 5 minutes, I wanted to strangle all of them, especially Abigail and Russell. And maybe it's just bringing up memories of my years as a summer camp counselor, but these kids really needed some extra rewrites. It's very possible to write realistic kids, even poorly behaved realistic kids, and not make them this annoying. So that's the best part and the worst part right there, but now let's get to everything in the middle. Let's start with the story. I think it's okay, but has a lot of potential to be much better if they just made a few tweaks. The setup is very good, with the wavering life of a child driving the urgency of the journey. But I think there needed to be just a couple more rewrites to make everything make sense and not have the audience distracted with these questions. For instance, why doesn't Cornelius go on the trip? He says he dare not leave her side, but I'm pretty sure whatever he's doing, he could easily leave instructions for. What's he doing? Feeding her broth and putting a towel on her head? That could easily be done by the other kids. If they had just written in an injury for him, like a bad leg, or maybe he inhaled some of the gas too, then it would have been clear why the kids had to go instead of him. But instead, he just sends 10-year-olds to their near certain deaths with very little help or choice. And then there's the death of Michelle's parents. Okay, yes, the death of a little kid's parents is very sad, but we never meet them. We also don't see Michelle's reaction to losing them until the very end. So the emotions that should surround that scene fall pretty flat. The parents maybe could have lived with Cornelius, so we could have met them in the classroom scene, and at least had a few minutes of character development instead of the whole role being corpse. And the big plot hole. all, why didn't they build the airship in the beginning? They built it in, I don't know, a couple hours, and it clearly made the trip back home a lot easier. This feels like a Lord of the Rings eagle situation, but without the complicated religious background to explain it away. It just seems like a cool thing they made for the poster and didn't think it through. And aside from those issues, as a story overall, it does feel a bit clunky. While the owl chase and the yellow dragon scene work well on their own, I think there should have been a few more obstacles for the kids to face along the way. Maybe instead of this random flock of birds who have funerals before the person actually dies, yeah, this scene was weird. Also, pretty pointless. The only purpose it really had was to re-establish Edgar as the smart one and then get some directions, both of which could easily have been accomplished with another deadly obstacle scene, like maybe a snake trying to eat them or a wolf trying to eat them. Okay, most of my suggestions are eating based, but I just feel like this whole scene grinds the film to a halt between two pretty thrilling action sequences. Of course, it's always great to hear Ben Vereen sing, but I don't think those few seconds were worth this whole sequence. And speaking of singing, they either needed to cut the songs or add a lot more, cause 2 songs does not a musical make. With the Wrens, I guess you could argue they're a choir, so it's in the context of the story, but Cornelius' song is a proper ballad and just kind of feels out of place. I mean, it's very clear why he has a song. You get Michael Crawford, you're gonna want a song to go with it, but there just needed to be more. So how does this hold up to my childhood memories? Well, I can't help but compare it to Ferngully. They're both 90s pro-environmental animated films with very good intentions, but not great executions. I'll say Ferngully is probably more entertaining, mostly due to the creative environment and Tim Curry as the villain. It's also the one I would prefer to watch again if forced to choose. Despite the best parts of Once Upon a Forest being the dark moments, it's just not that pleasant to watch. These kids are really annoying, everyone's just sad the whole time, there isn't any fun. At least Ferngully had some real fun going on, and this one just doesn't. So I'm guessing that's probably the reason Ferngully was the top pick for me as a child, while this sat in the DVD case for months on end. And that's about it for this episode of Childhood Rewind. Did you watch Once Upon a Forest growing up? Did you like it? Do you still like it? Did this retrospective unlock some suppressed memories? Whatever it is, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much as always to all my fellow freaks for watching, and I'll see you next time with something else. See y'all later!